Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It gives me an immense pleasure to warmly welcome you all to today's insightful workshop on unconditional parenting, a topic that holds deep relevance in today's fast-paced and ever-changing world. We are truly honored to have with us Ms. Aishah Kotecha, our esteemed speaker and guide for this session. Ms. Aishah Kotecha is widely recognized for her compassionate approach, depth of knowledge, and commitment to empowering parents with practical, heartfelt strategies that nurture connection, trust, and emotional resilience in children. Parenting is one of the life's greatest responsibilities and perhaps the most rewarding journey. Yet it comes with its own set of challenges. Today's workshop focuses on unconditional parenting, an approach that shifts away from reward and punishment models and instead promotes acceptance, empathy, and long term emotional growth. On behalf of the organizing team, I extend a warm welcome to all the participants, educators, and parents who have joined us today. Thank you for investing your time in this important conversation. Let us now begin this enriching journey of learning and reflection with Ms. Aisha Koteja. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I hope my screen is visible and quite okay. Am I audible? And is my screen visible? If somebody can unmute and answer, please. I can't see the chat box, so somebody will have to unmute and answer.
Yes, ma'am. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, Jazakallah. Okay, so our topic is unconditional parenting. First of all, I would like to confess that all the things that I mentioned today in this session is something that even I need to practice completely and learn. So I don't want anybody to assume that I'm somebody who's practicing everything. I just hope that we all come towards unconditional parenting. So what is this unconditional parenting? Let us try to understand in the light of a book written by Afi Khan. And before I begin, let's have a reflection on this sentence. Imagine your son's class teacher has given him a slip to be passed on to you. And the slip reads, "I'm proud of my child who was the student of the month." Okay, so just think whether there is any problem with the statement, or would you be happy receiving such a statement? Would you be the one who will stick this on your refrigerator or somewhere which is quite visible? We will come to the end of the talk and we will discuss a little bit more about this. In fact, I hope that you all will get an answer yourself. I hope so. So let's assess ourselves that are we conditionally parenting our children? Okay, so we have some questions for you now. Let us ask this question. If my child just yelled upon a gentle reminder to fulfill her promise, do I cancel the snuggled reading session I do with her? Or do I love my child for what she does and not for who she is? Do I force my child to say I'm sorry after doing something hurtful or mean? For me, does being a good child mean being a quiet child? Do I impose timeout or punish with the goal to control what the child does? Do I focus on what is convenient for me? And finally, is it difficult for me to imagine loving somebody among the humans without any strings attached? Okay, let's analyze. So, if the answer to all of this is yes, then we are controlling our children. We are practicing conditional parenting. So, let's try to understand what's wrong with these reactions. Okay, so let's come to the first one. If my child just yelled upon a gentle reminder to fulfill her promise, do I cancel the snuggle reading session I do with her? So, what am I doing here? I'm depriving the child of my love so that the child will not repeat the mistake, right? So, this is a kind of my way to control the behavior of my child. And such kind of an approach is usually used in case of animals. We all know about the theory of behaviorism. Um, and we see how animals are controlled. So, but then our children are not animals, right? So, this approach has a lot more issues. Throughout the session, we will analyze, what's wrong with these kind of reactions. And let's move on to the next one. So, if I love my child for what she does and not for who she is, that means my focus is on the task. Okay. Do I love my child? Can I love my child for no good reason? Is my love unconditional? Or do they feel loved only when they behave well or when they have achieved something? So, this is one important question that we need to ask. And then coming to this one, wherein we force our children to say thank you or maybe I'm sorry, and just because it's good etiquette, just because they are golden words, but then the golden words, if they don't mean it and they don't say it, with their heart, then it is a lie in a way. So, then what else should we do? So, we will analyze that hopefully in the session. Coming to the next question, for me, does being a good child mean being a quiet child? Yes. And in so many, we can say, events, and even while we are traveling, we notice there are so many people who at the end of the travel might comment, that, oh, the child is so well behaved just because the child didn't make a noise. Okay. So, but then we need to understand children are natural learners. They are bubbling with curiosity to explore things, to touch them, and to really find out so many more things about what they see around them. So, if this is our criteria of good behavior, then we really might question ourselves again. And then, am I controlling my child? Do I impose timeout or punish with the goal to control what the child does? And yes, this is a very, very common practice, whether India or whether outside India. Timeouts are, still not out of fashion, you can say, with the parents. So we need to ask ourselves, that, and of course, we have read so many books on don't be afraid to discipline children, the parents in control. So this is one of the strategies, on how to make our children follow the directions. But then what about the long-term goals? You know, like, do you want the child to comply to you all the time? And if you don't do so, then will you scare the child with some kind of a punishment by humiliating the child? Now, when will he learn to stand for the truth then? Because he will lose the sense of, they will lose the sense of themselves. They're doing it out of compulsion and not because they believe that it's the right thing. So, do we want our children to become assertive and courageous, or do we just want them to obey us forever? And then, like when they are small, they obey you, and then later on, they stand. They can't resist, the peer pressure, and they comply to their pressure as well, and they indulge in drugs, and there are so many other things that we can, and even they cannot stand up for bullies then in future because they have been forced to obey and obey and obey all the time. So this is what controlled parenting does. This is what conditional parenting does to the child. Moving on further, do I focus on what is convenient for me? So here, like we need to ask whether my convenience is important or what they need should be my priority. So all these questions make us think, somewhere that yes, it is difficult for us to imagine, love without strings attached. But then we need to practice this. And when I cannot love anybody without like any strings attached, then that's the time when I criticize them a lot, and I my tone changes, or I look at alternates to criticism. Even if I'm not criticizing, then I resort to other things. Like I may go in for conditional self-approval, which is like, for example, I say, "Oh, I really like when you color within the lines." So, like your love is conditional. It's conditional to the child coloring inside the lines. You know, so children never learn like this, by feeling bad, but they learn by receiving love, support, guidance, understanding, reasoning. So, what are those strings, that we attach usually? The strings are like you want them to behave well and you also want them to achieve well. So, well, if we can't do this, then we really need to question ourselves, that what is my child going to gain in the long run? The result will be very bad then. So, let us move on to understanding that. And also, one more thing, like, the parents who control, or who follow the conditional parenting style, they have some evident habits, which act as roadblocks. Like those who practice conditional parenting, they learn to respond, by way of ordering, directing, as if the child's feelings are not important. They are warning and threatening, and they are evoking hostility. They are preaching as if they don't trust the ability to evaluate the validity of others' values. They are advising and giving solutions all the time, even when they don't need it, and even when they have their own ideas. They provide lectures and logic, and they think the child's understanding is inadequate all the time. Although the child might be, a lot better in a few things than all of us. They are very good at finding out the qualities of their friends. They are good in so many things, and we might need so much of efforts to really, reach to that level. And we are also very the conditional parenting style. The trait of one of the traits of conditional parenting style is that there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of blame game going on, a lot of disagreements to so many things, and then criticizing in the public places. The parents who practice conditional parenting, they use praise, you know, praise to control them. They agree to, everything just to manipulate them. They may also indulge into name calling and ridiculing and shaming children. And like, they expect that the reaction to the adults, uh, the way we react to the adults, we can also react to the children. But then children are very delicate. uh, they also interpret, analyze, and diagnose. Even when such conclusions, they cut off communication, and children stop sharing. And sometimes reassurances can be also very harmful, because it shows that you don't want to understand them. So you sympathize with them, and which is in fact very harmful for them. Consoling and supporting, these are all ways by which we practice conditional parenting. Probing, questioning, interrogating all the time, withdrawing and distracting them, and not accepting their feelings, denying their feelings, and sometimes even hurtful humor. So yes, we can say that as old as are the children, we are also as old in parenting. So we also, deserve a little bit of a break, from the wrong practices. And we need to also take a deep breath and say, okay, fine, let me learn. It's okay. Even if I've started late, let me replace those wrong practices with the right one. And a day will come when, hopefully, I would have overcome most of, the things that I am not supposed to do. Even though we might not achieve an ideal situation, but then yes, somewhere we'll be better off than what we are today. So let's hope and let's try to go ahead learning other things. So I want all of us to make some assumptions, first of all. So out of those assumptions, the first one is that we all need to understand that behavior is actually the effect and not the reason. Okay. So they are just the outward expressions of their feelings and thoughts and needs and intentions. The internal reasons are something that draw them to behave that way. And the internal reasons can be any fear that the child cannot name, the frustrations that the child cannot express. Okay. So of course that doesn't mean that we let the child to do whatever they want, but then the way that we do this, it all depends on, from which culture we have come or which class we belong to. Even our childhood parenting style, it also has a lot of influence. The way our parents, dealt with us. So we need to take all of this into consideration. That behavior is the end result. We can say, or it's in fact not the end result. It is the effect. Okay, and not the reasons basically. Now, going ahead with the second assumption. Now, sometimes we assume that children are nothing but we can say we look at only the child's behavior, but then we need to focus that the child. We need to look at the whole child, the child, which is a who is a gift, from God, and they have their own reasons and thoughts and feelings. Rather than we focusing on the doing to or the controlling part, let's focus on working with them. Let's focus on problem solving. And how we feel about the kid is not as important as how they experience those feelings, how they regard the way we treat them. So how they receive is more important than what we think we are sending. Okay. So these are some of the assumptions that I want all of us to take into consideration. Now, let us go ahead with, you know, the harms that this kind of a controlling does, okay, to the child. So, the effects are quite grave. Sometimes our children, they lose the ability to regulate themselves. They are so dependent on, the external sources of control. And therefore, there is less internalization of values. And the adverse effect can be seen in the child's eating patterns as well. Either they end up under eating or overeating, or they have unhealthy lifestyles. Even the moral gets affected. It interferes with their morals also. They become less conscientious, and there is only external moral orientation. And you can say they don't internalize the values. Then I'm extremely sorry for that. Although I kept my phone on DND, I wonder how. I'll do the sharing once again. Extremely sorry. Okay, so we were on the effects of excessive control, and we discussed how the values cannot be internalized. Now, going towards the interest, sometimes our too much of controlling and conditioning them also interferes with their interest. They pay much less interest. And coming to the skills, also they are less proficient. So there are some adverse effects of excessive control. Now, before moving on to understanding, what punishment does to them and what is this punitive damages, let's analyze some of the benefits of unconditional parenting. So unconditional parenting is like, what leads them to follow basically. So the parents in this kind of parenting, they don't rely on power. They give them a secure relationship. They respect the children. They use, there's minimum use of control, and there's a lot of safety. Of course, limits are set when it comes to health issues, like, we wouldn't want them to go without a helmet or something. But then besides that, as less as possible. And then you offer some reasonable explanations. You're sensitive, more accepting, more cooperative. You give them rights. You regard their needs and wishes and the activity that is going in progress. You accommodate all of these. And then our main goal is empowerment, not control. Okay, in unconditional parenting. So now let's move to a very, very important topic. The first controlling tool that we use is timeouts and punishments. So let's understand, how this damages them. So first, what is punishment? Let us define punishment. So punishment is something, like unpleasant, something unpleasant happening to them. Okay, or something that prevents them from uh, experiencing something pleasant. So that's punishment. And the main goal of punishment is, of course, to change their behavior. So we may ask ourselves, how can making children unhappy prove to be beneficial? And even if it is effective, and if it was effective, if you think it was effective, then why do I need to repeat it or increase its intensity? Okay, so these questions will make us wonder, that why we use punishment then. So there are some justifications, that we try to give. Like, of course, corporal punishment is not practiced by some of us, of course. But then sometimes we may also resort to, like, the so-called consequences. Every behavior has a consequence. Okay, so you forgot your umbrella, so now you will suffer. You will get wet, and I'm not going to give you another umbrella or raincoat. So this is what we do usually. Okay. Or sometimes we give them threats and we think that that is enough reason. Like, okay, I'm already warning you if you do this. So you're kind of showing distrust here. Sometimes you justify your anger and frustration, and then you give a worse reaction. But then what happens is, in fact, more problems come up. And we conclude, that the problem is with the child. We never doubt our own strategies, but we always think there is problem with our child. And you know, um, so why punishment fails? So let us analyze here some reasons. The punishment fails because it makes people mad. Imagine your childhood days and you being punished. Okay. What happens in future then? The victims become the victimizers. Sometimes you also you also model the use of power. That, okay, this is how when you have power you misuse it, like, sort of. So it fails all the time. You're modeling wrong things. Eventually it loses its effectiveness because when they grow older, it's difficult to find even unpleasant things, sufficient enough to change them. So you increase the punishment, but then it has very less influence on them. In fact, no real influence. And then it erodes the relationship. That's the biggest loss that punishment, can cause. It makes them distant from us. It distracts the children from the important issues. They are wondering, about how mean my parent is by giving me time out or by punishing me. Whereas our main reason for punishment was that the child should overcome that particular problem. So it distracts from the important issues. So either they will, think that how mean they are, or they will try to take revenge, or then next time I won't get caught. This is what they determine. So punishments are not a success. And timeouts, which are supposed to be for reflection, it actually becomes a time for all these thoughts. And then it makes them self-centered. Okay, what they want me to do, I will do. And what will I get after doing this? So there is no morals, there is a lot of lying and then hiding and the intention, to not be caught. There's also a lot of confusion. On one side, we say, I care for you. And on the other hand, I inflict pain on them. So this is kind of contradictory. So we need to understand that this is causing a lot of damage. And all this, if you see the big picture, All of this happens in our lives because there is some distortion in our concept understanding. We don't know what is success. Success, of course, may mean different things to different people. But then we need to be clear. Why do I want to succeed, and what exactly is my criteria for success? And that will make our life more meaningful. Let's take an analogy. Suppose you press the metal, you know, to a great extent. Okay. And of course, it will, be strained a lot, and then it can get deformed also due to the excessive force. And finally, what happens? When there's too much of pressure, it snaps when it's not able to tolerate that. So our children are very, very delicate. They won't be able to bear, even, the things that steel is able to bear. And sometimes we put a lot more pressure even than those machines. We don't care for their well-being or happiness. We just want their, resumes to be full of some courses just to impress the interview committee, something which they're not interested in. Sometimes we may also want them to participate in sports, just because it's a family tradition, in the name of, like, okay, you just participate. I don't want you to win, but then even participation is kind of a conditional love, that you participate. And when they lose, they feel ashamed. There are so many better ways to exercise, right? So then why do we want them to participate always in sports like football or swimming or, things like that? So they view themselves better only if they give better performances then. So rather than this, BIRG is the short form for basking in reflected glory. You feel so pride in, when the team wins, or when the particular sportsman has done well. So you push them hard to do this. So there are many, many losses. The losses that we can see is that when you push the child so much, he loses interest in learning. His natural curiosity just evaporates. He, avoids challenges. He would want to read short books, easy tasks. Would like to do easy tasks. And then finally, the child does not think deep or critically. He will just skim the book only. He will take as much as is needed. I want to pass my exam. I want good grades. That's it. If this chapter is not coming for exam, I need not learn this, because it will not, increase my marks in any way. So focus is not on learning. It's only on achievement, on achieving A's. And name a school that does not have the concept of report cards, okay, wherein they are labeled and judged and evaluated. And then they also sometimes rebel. There's a kind of a passive resistance also in response to such control. And then even if they are getting good grades, at what cost? We need to question their emotional health, their low self-esteem, their loss of interest. So our focus must not be to just get them to read, but to help them to love reading. If that that is what something that we want them to pursue. Okay. So basically, we can say competition is something that will ruin them, and cooperation is something that we need to practice. Even in the school, we can always have a talk with the class teachers and with the management, and we can reduce these kind of competitions, which end up causing a lot of loss rather than gain. So what the child needs is a secure foundation. This is how he will achieve a lot. He needs unconditional love. The teachers and everybody must accept him unconditionally. Then this becomes the basis for valuing the efforts, basis for valuing someone. So we need to really give them, they will try new things then. And in conditional love, always there is a hidden cost, that fear of failure. And then they really don't succeed in future then. They don't think they're worthy enough. So we need to sit and discuss, what is success for me then. Okay. So let's move towards unconditional parenting now. So let us find out the reasons. What makes us do this? Why do we do the way we do? Why do we behave the way we behave? So we might not understand this until unless we reflect upon a few points. So let us come to the first one. There are some reasons, like what we see. So what we see and hear. Even in the field of medicine, in the field of engineering, you may see so many wrong practices that have been going on since ages. Doesn't mean that we need to continue with those, right? So which values to find a place? We can only find out when we take a step back, we think, we reflect. Okay. So we might practice so many wrong things that we see around us. We give labels, and like I when there was this meeting, wherein the teenagers were being discussed, and there was a question asked, what does teenager mean to you? Then one of the parents said, weed. Imagine, weed, weed, a waste plant. How can we call our children like that? Okay. So this is what happens. Like, it's so easy to tell children to be rude, lazy, and although there are some parents who, like the rich ones, who may show that, I'm so child-centered, I want to spend on them. But then what happens when, on the other hand, they see other children being homeless or practicing child labor? And we see so many people, so many children dying now at the hands of ruthless, oppressors. So, sometimes the people have high expectations. We'll come to all these points later also. So I'm just skipping these and moving ahead to what we believe. We also need to analyze, that what do I believe in and from where did I get this? So how I regard children, do I disapprove them? And then what is my attitude towards the teenagers or towards the children as such? So those who have negative view of human nature, they are always controlling with the kids. Remember. Okay. So, we should think, how children should be treated and how they are treated right now. Do they really deserve that? Is their point of view important? Should I take them seriously? Am I oblivious to their needs? Also, like, the global religion, the competition, we see them as opponents. A child is a child, right? So we need to understand that first. We also need to consider the abilities of our children. They are so small yet, they have not developed the skills, but the expectations are so high, you know, sometimes. Even like without knowing the letters, we expect them to read words. So it's like that, our expectations are so unrealistic. Sometimes we are conforming to the traditional rules and authorities. Sometimes we might, use justice as retribution. Like if somebody has done bad to us as a child, then bad should be done in return. But then this should not be done. Even religious beliefs come in the way. Like there are some people who believe that self-will is evil and sinful. The children, you have no right to question. If you question a religion, you will stray. And then you also justify your conditional love by saying that God loves you if and only if you love him. So don't we see how he blesses us continuously with so many seen and unseen provisions? How can we teach them to be so mean and selfish? And that also justifying by wrongly alleging things to God that he is not actually. And then sometimes we feel that there's only two ways of parenting, two extremes, either permissive or either like, controlling completely. So it's like, to give you an example, like if you're feeling uncomfortable in freezing cold temperature, it doesn't mean that you put up with boiling heat here. Okay. So, and of course, then we say that we need to follow a middle path, but there is no ideal middle path. We need to follow dynamic parenting according to the child's needs and according to the situations and according to our limitations and everything. So, what we believe has also to be analyzed. The next is what we feel. Okay, do I consider my child to be a friend or to be just my child? Am I his parent or am I his friend? Am I resorting to traditional parenting? So what we feel, is important. Not our needs, but their needs is something that we should consider. But then what we think is that our needs, our priority, our convenience is more important. Okay. So, what we feel is also like we idealize our parents also sometimes. Okay. So all this is deep rooted, in childhood. And finally, what we fear. Yes, our fears also affect them. The most important fear that we have is, that of parental inadequacy. You become so helpless, you're so confused and frustrated, and sometimes you blindly follow your mother-in-law just because you don't know what to do now. So you give in or you overcompensate sometimes, you know, uh, and like, this is not the solution. Somewhere we need to understand that you cannot give in to all their demands, so that will make you all the more helpless. Now, coming to the next fear is powerlessness. Like, when you feel so powerless and you try to blame, you try to oversmart them, or, you want to prove that you are superior because of this feeling of powerlessness. So important is to find solutions, not to, leave your mark on them. Uh, the next is fear of being judged. There is this omnipresent, nameless judge, sometimes, and we work for them. So when all these fears combine, they become quite serious. Then fear of our children's safety. In the name of safety, when we read these exaggerated stories in newspapers and social media, then you try to put extra controls on them. And babying is also another issue nowadays. Like you so overly you're desirous of introducing children to the wonders of the written word that preschooling starts quite before, even before they are born. You can say that. And you push them for toddling, you criticize them for crawling, and like you push them by saying that, oh, now you're a big boy. And sometimes you say that, no, you're very small. They're so confused, what am I, big or small? So what's the rush? What's the rush? You must have seen there are so many disabled children, with some disabilities, and their parents have learned, they have made peace with going slow. What if we also make peace with going slow at times, wherein the child is not comfortable going any quicker? It won't make them less dumber. It won't make them, sorry, it won't make them dumber, right? So, or less smart. So you have to leave behind these comparisons. And then this fear of permissiveness, that if I allow everything, the child will get spoiled. So you try to, provide a less supportive environment. So you need to ask, is all this about my fears, my needs, my upbringing, okay, rather than their needs and interests? Now, let's go to more specific ideas. Okay. Before we move on to the principles of unconditional parenting, we need to understand that there's no one size fits all approach. Okay. And nothing is to be imposed. Okay. And we need to at least bring an attitude change in these six things. Okay. We need to take them seriously. We need to understand that they are the people with feelings and desires. They have their preferences. They have their unique point of view. They also have a distinct way of reasoning, and their perspective is also as important as mine. So we need to understand. So let's move on to the first principle. Okay. And I think, this first principle itself, be reflective, it demands so much from us. It demands that from this busy life of ours, we need to spare time for reflections. Our lives have become so busy that we hardly find time. And we have got ourselves occupied in so many unnecessary things. So real time management would be use, somehow spare for yourself some free time. That's real time management. And so that you can reflect in that free time. Okay. So be reflective. It is said now that uh, the errors hardest to condone in other people are the ones own. So it irritates us that these mistakes once belong to us. Sometimes on reflection, we can correct these things. The next is reconsider your request. Now, again, there are so many times when we think that the child is not right, the child is not behaving well, and then the problem is with the child. But then, have you ever thought, is my demanding correct? Are my demands reasonable? And there are so many books that talk on punishment and rewards and positive and negative reinforcements, and there have to be consequences to the behavior, assuming that our demands are always right. But then, no, sometimes they might not be age appropriate. Ask ourselves, is it worth? And before telling them to do something, can't we reconsider our requests? The next principle that we need to remember is that we need to always keep an eye on the long-term goals. Okay, so we cannot become minute wise and hour foolish, right? So it's important that we need to understand, you want responsible, decent, compassionate people. Then what if he spills milk, or if he loses his temper, he forgets to do his homework? So how do I help him? What should my reaction be? What will he take my reaction to be? Will he turn out to be a decent, responsible, compassionate person upon this reaction? We need to ask. Will techniques like timeout and love withdrawal help? Okay, so don't get trapped in miniature everyday life. Rather, focus on the long-term goals. The next is put the relationship first. So being right isn't necessarily, what matters. When the relationship is strong, the solutions come easy, the misbehavior is easy to address, and they come to us. We're seeking solutions and advice, and they spend time with us, and they trust us. The next is Change how you see, not just how you act. So see it as a problem to be solved. See it as an opportunity for teaching rather than an opportunity to make them suffer, to make them do certain things. Be a part of the problem solving process. And then nothing comes without respect. Okay, so we should take them seriously. Sarcasm, writing off their requests straight away, dismissing their feelings, trivializing their fears, interrupting them, belittling them. All these are something that is used by the parents who use the controlling parenting style. And it's not at all advisable. So we need to realize, that sometimes children might have more knowledge, in a few things, as I mentioned earlier. The seventh one is be authentic. So let's be genuine. Let's be sincere in whatever we do. Let them also know that we are real people. We have needs of our own. We love to enjoy a few things. There are things we hate. And sometimes we become tired and frustrated. Sometimes I might not be sure. Sometimes I might say things without thinking and then regret later. But then don't pretend to be more competent than we actually are. And saying sorry now, there is another question. Maybe we can take this up in the question answer round, whether we should say sorry to the children or not. And then going to the next point is talk less, ask more. Okay. So discuss, discuss, discuss. This is what should happen and decide together. And rather than giving a talk and lecture, it's important that we question them. Sometimes the child may bring up some work and then you can say, did you like it? Did you like the way you did the work? And they will come out with so many things, rather than we pointing it out, and then we also understand why they did so. It's not that they are not competent, but then there might be reasons. As we said, behavior is just an expression, outward expression, right? So we should not talk, and we do just the opposite. Either we talk a lot, we talk very less, we're not helpful, we are hurtful. So we must refrain from all these behaviors. And then we need to keep their ages in mind. Okay. So, like, when they're small children, you may remove an inappropriate thing, to distract them. Like might give them a toy or something. But then with older children, we can't use those. Okay. So we need to be age appropriate also and give them tasks that, they are capable of doing. Don't, be unrealistic at all. The small children are expected to be fidgety, loud, forgetful. So don't get perturbed and don't get disturbed because of this. And then the 10th one is, I guess very, very important. Sometimes what we do is we attribute to children the negative motives, but then we need to attribute to children the best possible motive, which is consistent with the facts. We should know the real reason, first of all. Also, we should understand, whether my belief is right or not. Sometimes we create a self-fulfilling prophecy. It happens. So recall our childhood incident when we are accused of something wrong, or when we are reminded, how punishment felt that time. So all this is very, very important that we need to, like, you create an auspicious circle rather than a vicious one around you. The best motive you can think of is like they're immature, or they might have this innocent desire to explore. So, I remember this incident that I read in the book. There was a Japanese teacher and there was this 5-year-old. He had a rock in his hand and he was about to throw. And the teacher just touched the rock to the child's head to demonstrate, that how it could hurt. And he gave it back to the teacher. But then the teacher gave it back to him and told him to be careful. So the teacher implied, that this is the information that the child needed, that trust that he was capable of self-control now. If she would have punished, he would have never learned, how it could hurt others. So, so don't be in a hurry to blame, in case of a little older children also. Something, somebody must have done to make him mad. So we need to find out those reasons. Then coming to the 11th one, don't stick your nose in unnecessarily. So this is like, we are so used to saying no for everything. So sometimes we might, relent. And then, you don't want a mess. So you say no to, participation in the project or in a role play. You don't want them to be, messy or something like that. You don't want a lot of waste of time because for you, it's waste of time. So if you want a quiet, mess-free home, then we might raise a tropical fish. Why did we bring the children in this life then? So it's not about yes or no, basically. Actually, at the end of the day, it's to support their choices, to provide them guidance. This is like mindful child rearing, wherein which demands a lot of attention and patience on the part of the parents, not just going on the auto parent mode. And the 12th one is don't be rigid. Again, consider their perspectives, waive rules once in a while. Don't think that they are infractions to be punished, but think that they are problems which need solving. Sometimes you may take a day off, when you are not in good mood or you feel less tolerant. Moving on to the last one, don't be in a hurry. Everybody seems to be in this urgency syndrome. Jaldi karo, jaldi karo. How many times in a day we repeat this, right? So uh, we have to change our schedules, in fact, rather than rushing with them. If you give them time, they usually come around. So give them reason why you want them to do something, or then give them some time. Okay, tell me when you're ready. Okay. So this is what you need to do. Like for example, you have gone to the mall and now the child is feeling very sleepy. So it makes no sense in going shopping around without the child. The child can have so much of fun together with you. So what you can do is like you can just put some all the things aside, and then you can sit with the child, and you can point out to a few things till he's all up. You know and then he can also enjoy and without any fuss. So this is how we need to, everything needs time. So you need to slow down, savor the time that you have with your children, and may all of us be blessed with this ability, to really savor, our time with these little ones. After they grow up, they will have no time for us. And then let's go to the next point is like beyond threats and bribes. Yes. So this is also like towards loving them without any strings attached. So how to go about, we discussed a lot in the beginning in that reflective question. So when we talk about beyond threats, we need to remember that, you know, like for example, now you're threatening them all the time, and sometimes the threats are not even the ones that will carry out. So that it makes no sense, it fails to meet the underlying needs. Threats can never meet their needs. So we need to find out. For example, the child asks the cookie before sleeping now, repeatedly, something sweet he wants, chocolate or cookie. You just smile and then, uh, you like agree that it's hard to resist, but then I'm sorry, it's not good to have a cookie before sleeping. Again, he will ask. Again, you need to calmly reply. So that asking another time is not going to work better. So let's do some interesting activity. Let's try to divert our mind. And then when the child persists in questioning, then you stop answering, but then lovingly, you be with the child. Don't let the child feel unloved at all. Okay. So we need to reflect what's going on, what will be the impact of our behavior on others, and why this way is unacceptable. Make him think. And once it comes in his understanding, he will, hopefully leave all this. And coming to the next one, coming to the bribe section, right? There is a book, very beautiful book, Punished with Rewards. We should read that book. That how praises and rewards, whether it is tangible, intangible, or even verbal rewards, how it ruins their life. So what they need is not praises. What they need is affection, without any limit, no reservations, no excuses, and they need our attention as much as possible. They want you to show delight and happiness to be with them in their company. You know, this is what they want. So there is a difference, that it brings us to a question whether, we should, we can praise them, or what is the best solution. So yeah, let's try to analyze what is the difference between praise and appreciation. Okay. So what is praise? Praise is like, when you say good job. Okay. So you're giving a judgmental verbal reward for the work done. Okay. And the purpose is purely to manipulate. Doing things is the main focus here. The evaluation is understood very well by the child. Sometimes the child has not colored the entire apple properly, and when he has left some portions, not colored, or then when he's out of the borders, and then you say very good, the child understands, and that is this action was a fluke. He knows in his heart. And the child, so the child doesn't take pride in what he did, but he's more concerned about what others feel. And sometimes he gets this so easily, even without putting in efforts. So then he doesn't put efforts. He tries to find shortcuts. So he does not enjoy the activity, but he feels pressurized every time he waits for the judgment. Sometimes it might lead to arrogance also for something that he has not done. So, more the praise, the lower the internal or the intrinsic motivation. But then, what is appreciation? Appreciation is you acknowledge the efforts for the, efforts taken for the task, and you highlight the task done well. The purpose is to help the child, enjoy the task without this fear of being judged. And attention is paid to the efforts rather than the things which is done by the child, like the final result. The child feels happy, for the attention the child receives when you appreciate the part of the essay which you like the most, or the part of the drawing that you like the most, or then when he has cleaned the house, what are the things you can observe, oh, I can see that you have stacked your books properly, you have put your toys in the boxes, and then your bed sheet is also nicely spread, so all these things. So you are specific and you take interest in whatever the child has done. So he enjoys the activity thoroughly. It leads to excellence. And sometimes the task is also completed and with pleasure. What more can you ask for? So he's less dependent on extrinsic, motivation, and he's internally motivated. So we need to reflect, that my behavior has certainly some impact on the child, whether it's threats or whether it's praises and bribes. So let us reflect, what message did I send across? What will be the impact in the long run? Was that so necessary? Could there be another way to make them do this? How do I ensure they get the feeling of being loved? These are, I would paste these 5 questions, somewhere where I can see this again and again. So dynamic parenting solutions is the best, come what may, never be a controlling parent. And a last few words, that if you want, the child to, improve, or to, to become responsible humans, then we need to also sometimes give them the benefits of choosing. It gives them a sense of autonomy. And sometimes children who are not given autonomy, they become depressed. Even physically, their growth is all marred. Even the teenagers, they feel better about themselves when we give them freedom. They share their beliefs. They are confident in front of the challenges, and they learn to make good decisions, not by making decisions for them, but like by allowing them to make decisions, not by forcing them to follow the directions. So not controlling but empowering the kids should be our main goal. Now how do we do that? So we do that by, it's not that we don't give them suggestions, we give them, yes, but then we don't impose upon them anything. We decide it together, we give them a lot of freedom, we do it gently. When we say gently, means without non-confrontational approach, so lots of patience. We need to be prepared for lots of repetitions, and we should allow bad days. And when they're angry, never reason with them. And then there should be honesty also. If you have to see this from their perspective also. Like you can say that I know it's frustrating to do this alone, but then so you can add these statements and be genuine. Provide a rational wherever possible. Even 2-year olds understand, and like turn it into a game sometimes, because like say brushing teeth and all might not be very pleasurable and delightful, but then you can always turn it into a game. Like, okay, come on, let's listen to the sound of the bristles on the enamel. And when they are the grown-ups, you can say, Arey, even I don't feel like doing, come, let's do it together. Something like that. Then you set an example, whatever we are telling them to do, we must be practicing once first. Then give them as many choices as possible, So, and finally, the child's perspective is really very, very helpful, in, like in understanding, how they see things. Like there are 3 flavors to this, like the spatial. Like, for me, for example, something is left in the left, and but for them, it is the right. So you think that way also. You think about things, for you, something might be easy, but for them, it's very difficult. So you need to understand that as well. How you feel, you are upset, you're feeling upsetting, but then might not be the same with him. Okay. So it's like, not to understand that you're angry, but to feel angry along with you. It is like that. So how do we go about? Like, how do we raise moral kids now? So the most important thing is care about them. We really need to do this, and uh, you can show this care in the form of your verbal statements, by your action, by your reaction to whatever activity in hand is going on. Also, you talk with them, you let them practice, and you take their perspective into consideration. You discuss books and TV shows. It helps many siblings to resolve their conflicts. Like recently, I saw a short movie, which was the title of that pocket movie was Mobile Password. There is this daughter and mother. And what happened was the mother tries to sneak in the password of the mobile of the girl, who's quite mature enough to handle things on her own. Then the child gets quite pissed off, and both of them seem to have a lot of meaningful conversations, and the problem is resolved. They both share each other's perspective. The mother says that, when I was a child and my mother didn't trust me, I really and used to impose lots of restrictions on me. I had decided I will not be this kind of a mother. But then now, when I am a mother, and when you're growing up, and when I hear these kind of stories around, I feel insecure. For your safety, I feel that I should check, you should not be misled. And then the girl says, Mama, did you think about me when you try to check the password? I think that you don't trust me. And then she also discloses, that what she was hiding was some nice, sweet little surprise that her friend wanted to give to her mother. And because the friend's mother and her mother were friends, she didn't want them to disclose. So, like at the end, like both of them tend to assure a few things, that okay, I will never, hide my password. And then the mother also says that, okay, I will also not try to sneak in. I'll trust you all the time. So, like, that was a nice movie. We need to have such discussions with our children, wherein they can share all that they feel bad about. We can also share with them our insecurities. And we can also share our limitations, say sorry to them. The mother really did say sorry to her. And then, gently directing to, observe the non-verbal gestures. That if you want to make your children generous now, don't say, oh, wow, I see that you're so generous. You shared your cookie. Rather, we must say that did you see the effect it had on him? Did you see how happy he looked and how he felt? So even when it comes to somebody is put to trouble, you can say, okay, I didn't ask her for a walk because I saw that how tired she was. Oh, when somebody spoke in an insulting tone to her, did you see her expression? She became so sad. So what we can do is we can gently direct the attention. Because when you say, oh, I'm so glad you're generous, then that might create a lot of pride, and the child will accept it, and he will always do it to show it to others then. So through your child's eye also, to see things is important. So you observe them, and what they do, how they do it. And finally, laughter, using laughter. Laughter is a direct result of the shift in perspective. You know, so take you. Sometimes you may tell them to act. Okay, how I behave. So when they, try to role play, you, then what happens is you understand, that how you appear to them. So it releases their tension also this way. They feel empowered. They also understand that okay, my point of view is also important to my mother. Okay, that way. So the child's perspective is also very, very important. Now, coming to this last statement, okay. So this is here wherein I would want everybody to unmute and answer. Now, is there any problem with this statement? Would you accept this slip? I'm proud of my child who was the student of the month. I would request you all to unmute and answer rather than typing in the chat box. And whatever points are left, we can cover it in the question answer round. That was the end of my talk, but I would want you to discuss with me this particular statement. I'm proud of my child who was a student of the month. Is there something wrong in this?
It must be every day, not a month. Yes.
Ah, yes, 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 very true. Thank you, sister. And anybody else? Well, our
Actually,
mother,
yes, we
yeah,
are
yeah.
conditioning now that otherwise I'm not proud of you.
Ah, very true. Now you come to the right point. Yes. So a wise mother did the right thing. She tore the slip into two parts. She kept the part wherein it was written, I am proud of my child. And who was the student of the month? She ignored. So, yes, Alhamdulillah. I'm glad that all of you got the gist of, what is unconditional parenting. And I hope all of you have benefited. I would like to know your, viewpoint as well, and how you liked it, and any other questions that you might have related to this topic.
Yes, I have one
Yeah.
question that hello,
Yeah, yeah,
that
please.
if we ask our children to say sorry if he has something wrong, he or
Hmm.
she. So what's wrong in that? Yeah,
Like if it is just a verbal statement that you want the child to make, without even understanding why and what for what he should be sorry about, it's only important that you just point out, the towards the effect it had on others, the bad effect it had on others, and I think he will feel sorry. Like, in Hindi we say that उसके शऊर में वो बात आ जाएगी ना, तो अपने आप उसकी इस्लाह हो जाएगी, नहीं उसके बिहेवियर चेंज हो जाएगा. So it's like he just needs to understand, rather than just a verbal statement, I'm sorry, which he does not even understand why he has to be sorry for. He doesn't even mean it. He has not understood, the effect, the hurt that it has caused to others. Then that statement will not have any effect, right? And yes, of course, when we say I am sorry, the child learns from us. Okay, yes, my when my mother felt it and she said it from a heart, so even I can say sorry. So they will automatically come and say. We should not force them. They will come when they see it as, when they see us modeling. Now the thing is, every time we should not be going and saying sorry I did this, sorry I did that, sorry when you were a child, I was practicing this conditional parenting. And so what happens is sometimes when you say too much of sorries, then the child goes into the victim mentality, and then it can have an effect on his self esteem. So it's recommended that you restrain yourself when it comes to saying too much of sorries. But then, yes, somewhere, wherever needed, you can. And when you say it, they will say it automatically. You don't even have to force them. But they should understand. They should feel the hurt that it has caused to others. I hope that answered.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to say is that firstly, Jazakillah khair for making your time, because I feel this point should be like, I think every month maybe we need to have a reminder about this, because eventually we forget. Because I feel this conditional parenting is like by default inculcated in us. I don't know. We try to, we listen, because I feel we need to keep ourselves updated with the current way how to parent the right way. It's not like, sorry, not the right, but like, the right way
Yeah.
of parenting, yeah, not the conditional way. But as I told you, it's like, it's inculcated in us. And even though for a short period of time we listen and we are bringing the change, then eventually, I am telling about myself, I get back to that, the point one, A1. So I hope that does not happen. I think I need to stick it somewhere bold and clear, like what are the points that
Yes.
you shared. Jazakillah
Yeah.
khairan again. And
Vaiyak, Vaiyak. And thank you for sharing, thank you for sharing this. And it was so important for us it is important for us because we are humans finally. So give yourself
yeah,
space. It's okay. But, remember that unlearning is true repentance. Remember.
true,
So
true,
to
true. Yeah.
unlearn, we need a lot of patience. We need a lot of, you need to seek help from God. That every time when you fail, every time when you see some failure, we need to turn to
Mm.
God and ask that, oh God, I really want to do this. Please help me out. So this is
Yeah.
how maybe Allah will help us out. And also one more thing is like, I want to really thank Allah for giving me an opportunity, to really go through this book, because I might not have understood otherwise. So I had this book, this topic not been given to me. So thanks to the organizers, after God, I would like to thank them also that they gave me an opportunity to read this. And reflection is something that's the key, sisters. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we don't spend time in reflecting our behavior every day, whatever statement we are saying to our children, did I say the right thing? We need to make our temperament log. Why did I lose anger? What was the date? How did I react to her? How I should have reacted to her? Did it get the thing done? What could it be done in a better way? These are some reflective questions we need to spend time with, because questions को answer भी देना होगा, and to answer you need time. So you might have the
Yeah,
questions with you, but to answer you need time. Remember.
we need to have that less guilt parenting now. So I think this really helped. Hope it continues for a long time at least. And thank you again, Ma'am Jazakallah.
Mhm.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, sister.
मैं उर्दू में बात कर सकती हूँ क्या? इंग्लिश में नहीं बोलना है।
I'm sorry, I missed the first part. Your voice was like broken from between.
उर्दू में सवाल पूछ सकती हूँ क्या? इंग्लिश में मुझे नहीं आया अभी।
Yes, you can ask in Urdu also, no problem.
ये मेरे शोहर को डेथ हुए 1 महीना ही हुआ है। मेरे बच्चों के बिहेवियर में बहुत चेंज आ गया है। छोटा बेटा एकदम एरोगेंट हो गया है। अब बेटी को लगता है कि मैं बेटा को ज्यादा प्यार करती हूँ, इस वजह से समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कैसे टैकल करूँ।
Yes, or we need to remember that this is a very big transitional phase for the children with a father and now without father. So you will have to have a lot of patience here. And sometimes it happens that to have a fatherly figure, it's like, fathers, they talk usually less. So sometimes there is this kind of an environment wherein, an authoritative environment. So sometimes children do need limits, they want us to set limits. So now they kind of feel, uncontrolled, like, aisa ho sakta hai maybe. So, but then you need to have patience. It's okay to feel like that. You can talk to them. Having meaningful conversations will help. For example, if your child is, not really being, doing things well the way you are wanting him, just make him sit and ask. But why did you do this? Why did you do this? Ask him questions. Did you like the way you did it? And see, when you did this, did you see the effect it had on your sister? You know how she felt. Did you see how mama felt, beta? So by having conversations, this will go a long way. But to have conversations, you need to be clear about many concepts. So clarity is very important. So we need to, like, be updated, seek a lot of knowledge, and discuss things with our friends and with educators and with the people of knowledge around us. And so that when we are discussing things with them and when they come up with their questions that time, so we need to have some clarity. Of course, doesn't mean that we need to give them all the answers. Sometimes you make them think on their own also. So I think this is a phase, and it will pass. It will pass. But be connected with them. Don't just, when they're doing something wrong, don't react to them in a way like, that this is disturbing you. You can always express that, oh, I understand that you're feeling very frustrated. Let's talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it. So then when they are quiet, then you can sit and talk about it. So we learned quite a lot of things. Like sometimes what happens is now अभी वो उनका behavior ऐसा है ना, तो हम दूसरों के सामने बोलना शुरू कर देते, अरे अभी देखो ऐसा कर रहा है, अभी ऐसा कर रहा है. So what happens? The child is listening to this. It's kind, it will all become true then. It will become a part of a system then. वो ऐसा करने लगेगा और करेगा, and it will not go out of it. So never discuss these things in front of them. And like even when I'm taking this session, I made sure that my daughter was not around. I made sure that I told all my friends, don't keep your children around, because when they listen, they go into the victim mindset. And we need to really, because even we are humans, right? We need lots of chances. And so if you see something wrong, it's okay. Give yourself, some space and discuss it out with somebody. And criticisms ko bhi limited rakhna hai. Don't criticize them in front of others. Don't even criticize them. Just slightly bring their attention to the wrong without resorting to threats and without without resorting to threats and praises. Okay, so I hope you got this. May Allah Ta'ala make it very easy for you, and may you become a very good mother who's able to handle things. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, ma'am. Okay. First and foremost, a heartfelt thank you to Ms. Aishah Kotecha for sharing such meaningful and practical insights with us. Your words helped us better understand the true essence of parenting based on love, respect, and emotional connection rather than conditions and control. Your session has not only inspired us but also encouraged us to reflect deeply on how we raise and relate to children in today's world. I also want to extend sincere thanks to all the participants for your active engagement and presence. Your interest and enthusiasm made this session truly interactive and valuable. Lastly, a big thank you to our organizing team and support staff for their efforts in making this event smooth and successful. Let's, let's take these learnings forward and strive to build stronger, more compassionate relationship with our children. Jazakallah khair, ma'am. If anyone who are looking for counseling sessions, please do contact us.
Waiyakum and Jazakallah Khaira. If anybody has any more questions, you can type it in the chat box or then pass it in the group as well.
Yes. If anyone is looking any counseling session, let me know in the chat box. We do provide a counseling sessions in both online and offline format. If anyone is looking for marriage counseling, teenager counseling, career counseling, mental health and well-being, please do connect with us.
Sister, which session? Your voice is breaking.
It's a counseling session, sister. We have a couple of counselors who help you all to for a guidance. The link has mentioned in chat box. You can find that. So we will end here with the dua. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.